Thank you, Jim. It's
Sure.
a pleasure to be back. As you know, NGA's had a couple of spots on your show in the past to talk about big data, cloud migrations,
Absolutely.
and things like that.
Absolutely.
We've talked some about the ODNI's initiative called iSight, Intelligence
Right.
Community IT Environment.
Yeah, that's cool program too.
So it's a major cloud migration activity, and so NGA as a member of the community is really adopting a multi-pronged front to try to get into the cloud in a number of ways. We're doing work in services. I'm going to talk about something called the Geospatial Visualization Service. Basically, it's our back-end map services that we use to create a common services platform for anybody in the IC to be able to use. But just before I get into that, I want to mention briefly, we're doing some work in big data analytics,
Okay.
working with other members of the community to try to share data and to try to really solve the big data problem and do a lot of shared analytics.
Yeah, I guess in my mind, if I thought about an agency that big data would be a big thing, it would be NGA.
Yeah, and actually we make a distinction between big data, which is lots of little bits of data, and large data, which is the really large files that we have. So when we talk about that, we have to make that distinction. We're doing a lot of work in the common desktop. We've talked about fielding a common desktop out to the entire IC and a major acquisition associated with that. So we're well on our way there. We're doing a lot of work in just exposing data. So this is a big part of the cultural side. We're actually declassifying data and putting it out on the open internet. We've got an Ebola website that we used that we partnered with Esri to create. And so we've got people from around the world accessing that open unclassified website, accessing data that used to be U.S. government only. And lastly, we're even doing work in the software brokering model. Jim,
Okay.
Klimovich talked about doing a lot more brokering. Here we're bringing software vendors into NGA in something called the Application Operations Service Provider model,
Okay.
which is effectively we have a contractor that acts as a broker to any new vendor that wants to come in. They bring their software and we develop a pricing model, and then we sort of pay for use as we go. So that way we don't pay the full freight for
Another as a
development.
service here.
So back to geospatial visualization services. On that one, the real challenge with that one was that we needed a way to get into the new commercial cloud service that was standing up inside the IC even before it went on. So we didn't want to wait until the cloud was in place before we started developing for it. So we really needed to create a development environment somewhere else. Luckily, we had Amazon services that we could use, so we were working in parallel on the unclassified side, creating a copy of our GVS program.
Remember when Amazon sold books?
Amazon sells books and plumbing supplies and oven parts, as I discovered, so lots of things like that. But they also sell cloud services, and so taking advantage of their unclassified cloud services really helped us get up to speed so that when they brought their new classified capability online, the very next day we were able to port that capability over. So we now have capabilities in the IC that this capability is essentially available to anybody in the IC.
Man, cool.
One day after IOC.
Man, that's a great story.
That's been an enormous success for us.
Good. And what are some lessons you learned along the way? Maybe some things you'd pass on to your colleagues as things that you encountered that maybe would be some advice for others that are trying to do something similar?
Some of them have already been talked about. You need buy-in from the top, and we had really good buy-in from the Principal Deputy DNI, Stephanie O'Sullivan. She's really driving a weekly battle rhythm that is getting all of the agencies bought into the process and staying engaged, and that has really created a lot of momentum for the program. We've also partnered with DOD on a lot of that, so we have a very strong dialogue with Dave DeRees here to my left, and that partnership continues to grow stronger. So I think that early partnership is very important. We at NGA didn't focus enough on governance. That was mentioned earlier by Mr. Klimovich. I think we could do more there. Communication obviously is an important part of it. I think the one thing we haven't mentioned so far is that it was important for us to overcome a lot of the biases about the negative stereotypes about what may or may not be possible in the cloud. So early success stories and use cases about what's possible in the run-up to the cloud would have been a lot more helpful to get us to create the momentum earlier.
One